Sometimes we think of ministry in terms of silos. That is, things are completely separate. And I think that's tragically so with discipleship and counseling. We think of them as separate disciplines. There's a discipleship ministry of the church, and that's over here. And then there's a counseling ministry of the church, and that's over here. And while I realize that there are differences between the two, they are not identical. I believe there's an overlap where there's an interest that counseling has in discipleship, or should. And there is a need for counseling in our discipling. So I would point to 3 areas of overlap that I think are significant. One, in both areas of ministry, we should be, as Christian counselors and as disciplers, pointing people to Jesus. In counseling, even a good counselor is not Jesus. A good counselor cannot fix a person's heart. A good counselor isn't the one who can truly forgive sins. We can only point to the one who does. So counselors in their counseling should be pointing people to Jesus. Disciplers ultimately should be pointing people not just to a system or to some lessons, but in our discipling, pointing them to Jesus. I also believe that there's an overlap in terms of spiritual disciplines. That is, the use of the Word of God should just be a vital part of our counsel. My words are not all that wise. I need to point people to the Word of God in my counsel. And similarly, in discipleship, sometimes we err because we're constantly looking for good material. I'm a fan of good material. I don't mind using study books, but the best material is the Word of God. And I fear sometimes that God's people have lost confidence in the Word of God as a primary tool for discipleship. I remind us, the church got along for, quite a while without a lot of the modern resources. Again, I use a lot of those modern resources. I've got a full library of books on discipleship and counseling, but I believe that the Bible is the best tool of all. I think that's an important point of overlap. The spiritual disciplines, not just the Bible, but teaching people we're counseling or discipling, how to pray, how to cry out to God in their lostness, how to practice forgiveness of those who've hurt us. This is a discipleship element. It's also a counseling element. So I'd say we could look at all the spiritual disciplines. And then a third element, pointing people to Jesus, employment of the spiritual disciplines. I would add to this community, the importance of biblical community. This is an important part of counseling. Even secular counselors like to put people in groups. I think they're, I say it with a smile, stealing from the Bible on that. Because the Bible teaches the value of Christian community for our wholeness and for integration of truth and for those who will correct us or encourage us. So community, I think, is a value of discipleship, disciple making, and it's a value of good biblical counseling. So I'm saying there's an overlap. These are not separate silos. And in those areas of overlap, we should not only employ the similar things and similar tools, but we should encourage one another in the use of those areas of similarity.